When a man has an issue with erections, within 7 years, 15% of those guys will have a heart attack.
Wow.
And so it's an opportunity for men.
It's a early warning system.
Yeah, we call it the canary in the coal mine. First of all, when you look at living longer, right? People who have sex 52 times a year, so that's once a week, live longer, have lower heart disease, have better health outcomes than people who have sex less often than that. What they found was that the guys who did 21 times or more a month, they didn't specify through sex or masturbation, but they did more than 21 times a month, had a lower risk of prostate cancer. I will say erectile dysfunction is very common. 50% of men over 50 will have erectile dysfunction, and every decade that increases by about 10%. Oftentimes, you will see problems with your sexual health long before you see them anywhere else in your body. And the reason is the blood vessels to the penis are significantly smaller. They're about half the size of the blood vessels to the heart. So before you have a heart attack, you're going to see erectile dysfunction. And in fact, that we've seen that when a man has an issue with erections, within 7 years, 15% of those guys will have a heart attack.
Wow.
And so it's an opportunity for men. If you start having trouble, this is a wake-up call for you to get your whole health evaluated. Make sure that you're optimizing your heart health, your brain health before you get a stroke, right? Like all these things that in the long term will have you not having the life you want to live, right? Because if we think about sex, we want to live well, but we also want to have sex throughout our lives, right? And if you start having issues like you have heart failure and now you get winded just walking a couple blocks right down the street, like you're not going to have sex, like you're going to be exhausted. And so all of these things play a role. And so I find that anytime you think there's a problem with your sex life, that's an opportunity for you to get evaluated, right? To figure out what's going on so that you can fix that part of your life and before it becomes a problem.
And I'm sorry, within how many years? Just 15%? 7 years. Mm-hmm. So it's a early warning system.
Yeah, we call it the canary in the coal mine. It's like that warning sign.
Wow. And then, I mean, with erectile dysfunction, I mean, does that mean there is zero erection?
No, so the definition is that you're having trouble either maintaining or getting an erection that's sufficient for intercourse. So either you lose the erection before you penetrate or you can't climax because you're not reaching it soon enough and you lose your erection before that. Sometimes people get it confused. They'll think like, oh, I ejaculate very quickly, so it's erectile dysfunction. That's actually premature ejaculation. It's treated very differently. And so it's important, like when you go to your doctor, to explain those things, because what sometimes guys will come in and they'll say, my erection's not working, right? And so I will dig deeper, but sometimes if you go to your primary care doctor, they may not, right? And that may be the only doctor you have access to. Mm-hmm. And so if you say, I'm not having trouble, I can't, my erections are not working, they'll give you a prescription and you'll be on your way, but that prescription is not going to fix the issue if it's an ejaculation issue.
Interesting. I mean, how do you determine if it is a psychological issue, whether that be erectile dysfunction or premature ejaculation or, anything I'm not thinking of?
Yeah.
How do you determine whether it's an actual, something's going on with the body versus a psychological issue where you freaked yourself out and now you have, performance anxiety?
Yeah. So one is talk to the person, right? Like first I'll talk to them, like, okay, what's happening when you're by yourself, right? Like, do you get erections at night? Do you wake up in the morning with erections? Because that's a sign that things are all working well, right? When you wake up in the morning with an erection, that tells me, hey, your hormones are working, your blood flow is working, all that stuff is pretty good probably, right? Because your body's doing it when there's no stressor around, right? It's just like you're sleeping, your body's functioning normally, you get about 3 to 5 erections at night, and you usually wake up with one, and so that's a sign that things are working okay. There are like tests that you can do. There's even wearables that you can buy to do that. But like you pretty
wearables,
much, there's wearables that are now on the market. You can wear like a ring around your penis that will measure how many erections you get at night, how long they last, and how firm they get, and they'll give you data. But at the end of the day, like I think some people really like that because they want data. They like to know those things. But at the end of the day, like if things are functioning well and you're happy and you're getting morning erections and your partner's happy, like I wouldn't stress about it. It's when you start feeling like, okay, things are not going well. Okay, am I getting nighttime erections? That's one, waking up with one. 2, if I masturbate, is it working fine? right? And sometimes that's like your masturbation is different, but there's no pressure, right? When you masturbate, you're not like worried that like your partner might feel some way or whatever. Like there's no anxiety typically around masturbation, unless you feel shame about it, which is a whole different thing. So usually that's another way. Third way is we can do what's called penile Doppler ultrasound testing. So we can actually we check the blood flow to the penis. So we'll actually give you an artificial erection with a medication, and we'll actually then test to see how fast the blood is flowing in and how quickly it's leaving. And we have markers to say what's normal and what's not. And so those are tests that we can do to be definitive, like, yes, the blood flow part is working. Now, the hormone part, we check with blood work. We check if your testosterone is normal, if your free testosterone is normal, all those things. And there's other hormone markers that we'll check as well if they're low to make sure they're not playing a role. And so those are things we can evaluate pretty well. Beyond that, like I said, I think everyone has a little degree of psychological component to it.
Now, how do patients get over their psychological anxieties?
Yeah, so it's difficult. I'm not going to say it's easy. I encourage them, if they are willing, to talk to a sex therapist or even a therapist that has some, openness about talking about sex, because it's really dealing with your thoughts and kind of working with those, and like especially in the moment, right, when you're with your partner. So it can be like doing mindfulness exercises. So there's been studies on mindfulness that like if you do 20 minutes of mindfulness every day, you're more present in the bedroom. So you have more enjoyable sex because you're able to like really pay attention to what's going on rather than getting lost in your own thoughts. And I think just being present in general, like cultivating, I think the other thing about sex in modern day is like it's rushed. It's like we're busy with our kids, we're busy with work, we're busy with that. And then we're like, okay, we got 5 minutes, like let's go. And there's no like, you haven't actually made it feel desirable. It's just like another checkbox to do, right? And so it's like actually like, hey, like when you were younger, you used to like, be like, oh, I can't wait to see you on your date. You'd call each other, you'd text each other, whatever it was, and you'd be excited to like see your partner and like potentially have sex with them, and there was like this whole thing, like you just felt so excited about it. But when you're in longer term relationships and the stressors of life come along, we often just are like, we'll do it when we get to it. We will have sex, like it'll happen. You're always there, right? And so it's like you have to be like intentional about cultivating desire. You have to be like, hey, foreplay starts in the morning, like with a caress on the back or like a flirty text or whatever, right? Whatever floats your boat, and like feeling in the moment, like excited. And I often tell people, instead of date night where you go out to eat dinner, like have intimacy night where you like are intimate together. You hold each other, you lie together, you explore each other's body, depending on what turns you on, right? But you actually make that a priority because it is valuable being connected with another human being. People who have more sex actually live longer. And I think partially it's because of that connection they're getting with another human being. And so, it's really important that is so, and we're losing connection so much with like AI and the internet and all these other things. Like we have to be intentional about keeping that.
I mean, how much, we're talking about, you're saying people that have more sex live longer. Mm-hmm. How much sex should we be having? How many times a week should men be ejaculating?
Yeah, so there is science behind this, and I'll give you some data on that. So first of all, when you look at living longer, right? People who have sex 52 times a year, so that's once a week, live longer, have lower heart disease, have better health outcomes than people who have sex less often than that. So we know that for a fact. And if you have, so a lot of veterans struggle with mental health. So they have depression, anxiety. People who have depression and anxiety and have sex more often, they actually they do better in terms of their mental health as well as living longer. So like you might actually be improving your mental health as well as living longer. And so there's evidence at least once a week, right? And then in terms of how often should you ejaculate, there's a very famous study where they had looked at ejaculation frequency and the risk of prostate cancer. And so they looked at databases where people filled out how often they ejaculated in the last month. And they put them into categories. So it was like 0 to 4, 4 to 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21, and more than 21. So what they found was that the guys who ejaculated 21 times or more a month, they didn't specify through sex or masturbation, but they did more than 21 times a month, had a lower risk of prostate cancer. Now, is it the ejaculation?
Say those numbers again.
More than 21 times a month had a lower risk of prostate cancer. Now, is it the actual act of ejaculation? Is it something else? I mean, there's some theories that like if you're ejaculating, you're sort of cleaning the pipes, right? Like you're getting any stagnant fluid that might be in your prostate, you're getting that taken out. And so that may be beneficial. Now, I can't say for sure because there's not really a good way to test that. But basically what I tell people is like, have sex, masturbate, enjoy pleasure. Enjoy connection with another human being and enjoy pleasure. Because for some people, masturbation is the only way they're going to get pleasure. They don't have a partner or they don't have someone they can have sex with. So I don't want to take that away from them either, right? And I think that those things are important for people to feel good. And there's so much value to having orgasms, like but physiologically, right? Your heart rate goes down, your blood pressure goes down. Some people sleep better. Some people have post-nut clarity and they feel like much better after they orgasm. And so I think that, you know, it is something that we need to look at as like a tool potentially to live better, you know, to have a healthier life, to be connected with another human being, to feel good, to feel pleasure. And I say this often, sex is play, and we don't play as adults. So like play, enjoy life, be creative, have fun, and enjoy sex. Like, why is this something we have to like hide behind a corner? It shouldn't be. It should be something that we just like openly welcome. And we should be able to talk about sex and be able to express our concerns, our insecurities, and be open with, and the idea of being vulnerable, right, with another partner, with someone else is really powerful because to have great sex, you have to be vulnerable. You are naked in front of another person, literally, physically, and mentally, you are naked in front of them. And so you need to be able to be vulnerable and allow yourself to be vulnerable to truly experience meaningful pleasure. And so many people are so guarded, and sex is like just this thing you do, right, for a quick release. But it's actually so much more than that.
Are there any studies on whether you're ejaculating with a partner versus masturbation? Is one better than another?
Well, in terms of how your brain responds, so there are certain nerve endings in our body that can only be stimulated by another human being, that are caressed in a certain frequency, which is usually like a loving caress. That is what turns those nerve endings on. And so that turns on different areas of your brain. So it will stimulate more of your brain. So you will likely have more pleasure and a higher, you know, sort of response to that. So in terms of like experiencing pleasure, it will be probably more intense and more enjoyable with another partner compared to by yourself. But it certainly is, you still can enjoy pleasure by yourself. The challenge, I think, by doing it by yourself is, I'll go back to the example of like when you're a kid and like you're worried, like you're in the shower or you're in your bedroom and you're like, oh my God, someone's going to walk in or someone's going to be like, why are you in the shower so long? And so you learn to rush through masturbation and it becomes this just like quick thing to get a release. It's not a time to actually enjoy pleasure, right? And so I think that's where, you know, it's okay to explore your body and to feel pleasure by yourself and like allowing that and using it as a tool to like learn about yourself. Like what turns me on? What makes me feel good? I think particularly for women can be very useful in learning which sort of stimulation works well for you. And then you can communicate that with a partner. And also like exploring more than just your genitals, like your whole body can be an erogenous zone, right? You can stimulate anywhere on the body and almost anywhere on the body and someone can get turned on. So it's really like, okay, like we can use this. We can stimulate multiple areas of someone's body and have them feel an amazing pleasure that if you just focus on genitals is not going to be as robust.
Interesting. I mean, let's go back to the implants or penile. Is that what you call it?
Penile implants, yeah.
Implants. I mean, are there a lot of people doing this?
Yeah, I mean, so I will say erectile dysfunction is very common. 50% of men over 50 will have erectile dysfunction, and every decade that increases by about 10%. So you can imagine there's a lot of guys struggling. Now, because of medications like sildenafil or tadalafil, known as Viagra and Cialis, those medications help a lot of guys get erections without needing surgery. But before these medications were around, we didn't have much. We had vacuum erection devices, which which are sort of similar to penis pumps, but they are medical grade. We have injections that you give yourself in the penis that work quite well, but like some guys don't want to inject their penis, which is reasonable. And then we have surgeries. And so typically guys will go through these options, and then if they still can't get an erection, a penile option is a great option for them. And so what that is we actually implant a device into the penis, which they then either pump up with a pump in the scrotum when they want to have an erection, and they deflate it when they're done.
Wait a minute, they do what? They pump it up?
It's got a little pump. I should have brought one with me, but there's a little pump. You pump it up, and then you get an erection. And then
It's inside your scrotum?
Inside your scrotum, yeah. And you can't really tell. I mean, like it looks sort of like there's a little something there, right? But like you can't really tell that someone has a penile implant. Like in fact, in medicine, like we'll get consulted like, oh, this guy has what we call a priapism erection that won't go away. And sometimes it'll be like, oh, the guy just has an implant. So even other doctors sometimes don't notice it, is my point. But it's very hideable. You don't need to know. And then there's other ones where you implant it and you just bend it up and bend it down. So when you want to have an erection, you bend it up, and otherwise you bend it down.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.